Ladies and gentlemen, don't adjust that dial. Well, it's not radio, I don't guess, and there's not really a dial, but you get the point. Stay right here. I'm Justin Perkins. This is Talk Junkie. Hello. Let's get all this stuff out of the way right off. First of all, my new book, Creating the Perfect Slaves. It is a poetry book. It's my second poetry book. It is available at the Red, R-E-A-D, the Red Spot in Newton, Hazard, Kentucky. Only available there. She will ship. We have an event coming up. It was August 1st. Tentatively, that may change because I was doing it with another author, and I don't know what the deal is. I'm actually going to try to get up with her at some point this weekend and straighten that out, kind of see for sure what we're doing. But either way, from now until August, the only place you can get the book is the Red Spotted Newt. You can also get Cold Kingdom there. I believe she still has a couple copies of that. If for some reason you just absolutely cannot, and there is no excuse why you can't, but if for some reason you cannot, the books are available on Amazon.com, with the exception of Creating the Perfect Slaves. It will not be available on Amazon.com until August 1st. So that means I really, really, really want you to buy from the Red Spotted Newt. And buy quickly, because I got a lot of other stuff I'm working on, and I need to pander that to you as well. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? No. No one's paying me to say anything, including them, so I don't really have anything else to say. This I do want to say, before we get into today's. I went a long time without doing a podcast. And in that time that I didn't do the podcast, I also didn't check my email, and I don't know if that was just a defense mechanism or of people maybe saying something about me not doing the podcast, or it's just let me ignore the email so I can ignore the podcast. I don't really know what the situation was there. And I mean, I went a long time, and a lot of it was just, nothing big, nothing major. Just a lot of stuff was going on, and I really didn't have time to record the podcast. And then I started reading the emails again. I didn't realize the amount of correspondence I was going to get. I didn't realize, I didn't sit down and look at, how did I get to 1,000 downloads here? And then how did I get the 500 downloads here? And I didn't realize the level at which it was getting consumed. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not, Adam Carolla, Joe Rogan level of consumption, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. I'm also not as good at this as they are, but it is a really high level of consumption for somebody like me, for what I thought it would be. I thought it would be 5 or 10 people occasionally listening, and it turned out to be more than that. It's actually 15, and they listen 50% of the time, and that's enough. No, I don't know how many it is, but it's fun, and I have done this almost completely without social media. Don't get me wrong, I'll get on my Instagram and stuff and put up, hey, there's a new episode, and there might have been a couple times I've done that with Facebook. I believe at one point in time there was a Facebook page, and it still may exist. That's how little I know about it, that every time I had a episode come up, it would be on that. But for the most part, I've done this just by people finding it. I know of 10 people who found it just on, I don't know if it's in recommendations or they searched it. Send me emails. Let me know. Let me know how you found the show. But I know a lot of people just found it on Apple, on the podcast app. And that's why I push the Apple podcast app so big, because I get better information back from them on viewership, and I don't know. It's just a little easier to promote and a little easier to find. I mean, it is available on Spreaker. It's available on Google. I can't get really any info from. I don't know how to do that. I'm sure it's possible. I just don't know how to do it. I don't know if anybody's listening on that end of it. But it's been really, really awesome, just the fact that people want to listen. And the emails and the interaction that has come my way in the time that I was off, and especially in what time I've been back, has been really, really rewarding, and it's really got me pumped up to do it. It makes me want to do it a lot more. I do feel like, and some of you have made this comment, that I overloaded a little bit. Like, we're already at 100 episodes, and we're in our first year. Like, I probably overloaded you a little bit at first, so I'm trying to space these out. You know, it's hard when there's stuff you want to say and you don't have... You know, you have the ability and you have the platform now, and you know that people's listening, and to not just kind of go crazy with it and overdo it. But having said that, today I really wanted to talk about something that has popped up in some of these emails and stuff, and that's opinion and things of that nature. Like, I always say I'm afraid of beliefs because beliefs can be dangerous. Opinions can be dangerous too. I mean, very, very much so, especially if they're ill-informed or, you know, what have you. But a lot of people want to influence opinions and influence how other people think and feel about things. And I find it interesting because at some point in time, that has to be possible. At some point in time, people have to be able to be influenced by others, and maybe it's an ongoing thing, and it's just dependent upon. Some people are influenced by famous people, some people are influenced by what they consider to be experts or intelligent or educated or informed people, and some people are just influenced by what's in vogue or what's chic for the moment. But I've realized something about what I say, and when I express my opinions and I give people kind of my thought process on things, is I find that a lot of times it really doesn't change people. And that's not necessarily bad. That one, I could be wrong, and I don't know how many of you are keeping track, but it happens a lot. And two, like, what did I do to deserve the right to influence someone to that level? So it's one of those things where it's not a bad thing to me if you can't be influenced easily by someone else's opinion. If you just change your mind and agree with anything and everything that I say, then you didn't really have a very formed and worked on opinion. You understand? Because to me, an opinion is something that needs to be worked. I mean, I could sit and put negative connotations on opinion all day, but the fact of the matter is, it's something we all have, and it's kind of like a muscle. It's something that needs to be worked out. It's something that needs to be informed. It's something that needs to be educated. And it's something that okay, a little bit of a glitch, and that was always one of my concerns with this Spreaker app, is how these glitches work and if we get to record afterwards. So all I can do is assume that we're recording, and I don't remember the last thing I said, but I know what we're talking about today, and today we're talking about opinions and things of that nature, and what kind of effect they have on people, and you know. But when I say something on here, a lot of times I say it as an opinion, and I try to form an opinion. Since I'm afraid of beliefs and don't get to have those, opinions are you know, they're kind of the commodity I get to deal in. And, you know, I do not represent myself or even try to remotely proclaim to be, one, intelligent, two, any type of specialist or, you know, anything of that nature. And more importantly, I don't refer to myself, consider myself, or should I ever, never, ever should I be confused for news. And, you know, I think that that's a lot of what we find in news and in media is opinion, and simply opinion, and not even always factually based opinion. But that's the problem with opinion. That's the problem with the way I feel about things. You know, I try to look at most things, especially when I try to have a good conversation on here about something. I try to look at it factually, and a lot of times the facts won't coincide with how the personal feeling I have about something, and that can happen. And it's weird, you know, that you almost can you can have an opinion about something, an opinion that is, for all intents and purposes, possibly factually incorrect, because you can see the factual evidence and it doesn't really reflect your feeling on it. And at that point, it becomes more of a personal and, I guess, really an emotional point of view on something, and it becomes completely opinion. And something that's completely opinion based, it may have some merit, because you may think, well, this is what this factually says, and this is what the evidence is pointing to, but I have this gut reaction, or I have this other evidence, and where I think it at least needs further discussion. And there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is if you start taking opinion that is not factually backed. It doesn't have a ton of evidence behind it, and you know that a lot of the evidence that's out there either doesn't coincide with your opinion, or even possibly in some cases disproves your opinion, or puts less of a value on your opinion in its validity. And in that case, if you try to present that opinion as fact, which is what I think happens very, very often on the news, that's what Bill O'Reilly is known for. Bill O'Reilly is the king of, this is my opinion, and because, and only because, it coincides with the party and it coincides with the channel, you're going to listen to my opinion, and you're going to give it the respect that I demand you give it. And I'm going to present it to you as factual statement. But it really, for all intents and purposes, is completely just opinion. And not a very good opinion, and not very factually based. Now, I get told all the time, apparently either Bill O'Reilly is no longer on TV, or wasn't on TV for a while, or wasn't on Fox. I don't know. The reason I don't know is because I don't watch Fox, or CNN, or MSNBC, or any of the opinion-toting propaganda machines. I don't know. I keep getting said you can't use that as an excuse, as an example, because he's not there anymore, or at least he wasn't. I don't know. Maybe those people don't know. I don't know. But I do know Don Lemon's still there. And again, there it is. His statements on Black Lives Matter. I think Terry Crews was very clear that this was his opinion on the matter. And I've not seen any official statement from BLM, who's not an official entity that I know of. They possibly could be, I don't know. But I've not seen any official statement from them, or even know that they're an official entity that can give an official statement. I don't know if there's a leader there. I don't know how that works. But it appeared to me, based on the facts that I can find, and it appeared to me based on the facts of the conversation, that Terry Crews was very much expressing an opinion and a concern about not making all Black Lives matter. All the Black lives that were lost in Chicago at that time when they were doing this, that were not lost to cops, were not being given the same respect as other Black lives. And he felt that was an issue. Apparently, Don Lemon, who is a moron, and that's beside the point. I don't know that that's an opinion. Like some people would say, well, that's your opinion of Don Lemon. I think his actions validate that he's a moron, or an idiot, a buffoon, a sorry excuse for a person, whatever you feel adequate to call him. But it felt to me like his response to Terry Crews was very much an opinion, and not a factual statement. It was very opinion driven, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But he immediately dismissed the opinion of Terry Crews, and I don't know if Don Lemon knows that Don Lemon's an African American, and I don't know if Don Lemon knows that Terry Crews is an African American, but they're both African Americans, and I don't know their histories or their experiences. Not both of theirs. I do know to some extent Mr. Crews's, but I don't Don Lemon, I don't want to know anything. I'm not going to lie to you. If he just came out here today and like, look, let me give you the lowdown on Don Lemon, I'm like, could he stab me in the ear or something? Is there some? And it's not. It's just because of who and what he is and how he does what he does. He's a vile human being. You know, if you come out to me and you said, look, I really, really want to set you down and I want to give you, you know, all this information and backstory on insert whoever from the news. I can never remember the funny looking guy who's now like the big guy on Fox that since apparently, I guess, Bill O'Reilly's gone. I never can remember that guy's name. I think he wears a bow tie. He's extremely annoying. But I don't want to. I don't care what it is. You know, he could have been the greatest human in the existence of all mankind, which I know is not possible. But he could be, and I don't care. I don't even have the ability in me to care enough to know his name. There's no way I want to know his backstory. The same way with Don Lemon. But maybe, possibly, Don Lemon's from the streets, and Don Lemon's had a harder life, and Don Lemon's experienced more racism. Maybe Don Lemon's had a harder go at it, and Don Lemon comes from a more educated point of view on BLM than any other African American in the United States of America. I don't know. I don't know how hard Don Lemon's life's been. But I don't feel that Don Lemon should dismiss the opinion of someone else when all he's doing is giving opinion. Because that's what it sounded like to me. All his conjecture sounded like opinion to me because, you know, this is not why BLM was started. Okay, that's you know, that part could be factually stated. I don't know. But the most factual statement in regards to BLM is that it stands for Black Lives Matter. And the factual part of the statement made by one party in that conversation was that black lives are being lost. But that's a different episode altogether. But the point is that opinion was given as opinion on one side, but was immediately just given as, no, your opinion's wrong, and I'm going to give you my opinion. And my opinion is more accurate and more valuable than yours because yours doesn't fit what we're trying to get across as a network here at CNN. And that's what our news has become. It's become opinion, and I think we have to demand more than opinion in certain areas, but I think that we have to understand as people that these 24-hour networks that are giving us news aren't giving us news. You may get an hour of news each day. They're giving you opinion. And if they present it as opinion, and in fairness to them, and I very seldomly defend them in any way, shape, or form, they're not saying it's opinion. You know, I mean, look, a lot of it they're just straight up lying about, and it's 100% opinion, and they're just not representing it as opinion. They're just also not representing it. They're calling it news. They're not saying it's opinion, but they're not saying that it's not opinion. You know, it's a situation where it's an opinion-based thing, and I don't know. Maybe they feel like I feel. The American people should be smart enough to know it's opinion, but people don't, and that's scary. That's, you know, and I'm doing this podcast. I'm saying these things for a couple reasons, but one of them is it's scary to me because I never realized this, and upon realizing it, it's kind of disheartening. It's very disheartening because, yes, the news is deceptive, and yes, it's a business and it's commercialized, and yes, it isn't real mostly because it's not really designed to be informative or accurate. It's now currently designed to be influential and to be opinion based and to carry a narrative and to support a party and a way of thinking without worrying about credibility and factuality. But the thing is, as bad as that may seem, what's worse is that people can't see it. Not only can they not see it, but they almost don't want to see it. I mean, don't get me wrong. You've got the fake news. Trump people that say, no, that's fake news. That's fake news. That's definitely fake news. Oh, Trump's on TV saying that, CNN just said that, Trump killed a baby and they've got fake news. Yeah, but they got pictures and fake news. Okay, well, we actually have video, a signed affidavit, and photos, and an oral and a video confession from Trump that he overslept an hour while standing at Mar-a-Lago. Fake news. Those people would listen to the first part of my podcast and go, well, of course he's right. All news is fake. Trump said news is fake. If Trump said the news is fake, it's got to be fake. Now, those people understand part of the message, but they don't really. They just understand that news that isn't auditorily satisfying and doesn't benefit their party and their belief and their president is fake. Even if it's not, because sometimes it's not. But it's fake because it doesn't fit the narrative they want to hear. And I don't know if auditorily is a word. But I'm gonna hang with that. I mean, I'm gonna look it up and see, and if it's not, I mean, I don't know, do you petition Webster, Merriam-Webster? I don't know how you do that, I could probably get it like in, what's the one for like slang? Urban Dictionary. I could probably get an Urban Dictionary, maybe, easier. But if I could get an Urban Dictionary for, I don't know, it may be a real word. I don't know. Something I made up. I mean, you put "ly" on the end of anything, sexually, angrily, auditorily, I don't know. It's auditory, and then you just put the "ly" on it, auditorily. I don't know. Auditory, I don't know. Either way, if I made up a word, you're welcome. There it is. Have at it. I don't know. But on the flip side of that, a lot of Trump haters, because see, that's kind of what we've been separated into. We're not separated into people who have the ability to make and think and choose for themselves. You got to pick a side, and it's either pro-Trump or anti-Trump. It's either pro-Obama or anti-Obama. It just depends upon who the president is, because the divided people are much easier to control. But the people that, let's call them anti-Trump or leftist or whatever you want to call them, I don't care at this point. Their immediate response will be, we have to trust the media, and we have to blah, 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 blah. Now, my favorite fake news of recent times is the Cuomo coronavirus. Filming him coming out of the basement, seeing his family for the first time. He was on the brink of death. World was over. He didn't know if he was making it. And he had not seen his family at all during quarantine. I mean, maybe some letters or something, maybe yelling through the air vents, Daddy, we love you. If this is it, we love you, and didn't know if he's getting out of that basement to see his family again, you know what I mean? And I mean, zero contact with the outside world whatsoever. And here he is on CNN walking up the steps. He's coming in, and oh my God, here's his family for the first time during this quarantine. He's going to see his family. But wait a minute, he does a podcast, and he's known for other things, and there's a police report about him getting into a conflict with somebody outside the house before this was filmed. He was with a woman and children, probably his wife and kids. He's not actually been quarantined. It's all fake. It's all fake. And the Trump supporters go, ha, fake news. And the anti-Trump supporters, instead of saying, yeah, that's fake news. Not everything's fake, but that's fake news. Instead of saying, here, we're not going to defend that. We're going to attack that because that's wrong. And that way we have some credibility when we defend things that are real. No. Let's double down and go, no, that's not fake news. That's not fake. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that's a lie. You don't know what you're talking about. And at this point, the story is so convoluted and things that, they've been caught so many times. And it does two things when they get caught. One, it gives these ignorant people who believe fake news all the time some credibility. Even though it doesn't really, at least it justifies it to them and to people that are on the fence that, well, hold on, they're constantly lying. Maybe it really is just constantly fake news. And on the flip side of that, you've got these people who are saying, no, we got to trust the media. And the media does some good and stuff. And it takes their credibility because they keep defending things that are fake. Just because if you didn't, they feel like it's agreeing with Trump. And that gets down to opinions. And I don't believe they should be able to call themselves the news. I think they should have to call themselves, the Fox Opinion Network. I don't know. But it also shouldn't make a matter. It shouldn't make a difference in a lot of ways. We should be intelligent enough and free and thinking enough and open enough to sit down and go, okay, everybody does some good, everybody does some bad, and we can look at this for what it is. These people's opinion on something, and not the end all be all, of factual statements. I'm constantly surprised by people's inability to distinguish between opinion and factual statements. And I'm also really surprised a lot of times by how people can justify being angry at an opinion when it's right to have an opinion, and it's right for it just to be an opinion, as long as you don't present it as something else. But very few people get angry when politicians or celebrities or news organizations take an opinion and present it as a fact. And see, that's a problem. That's a real problem. There's people out there, and I believe President Trump's one of them. There's people out there that they believe every opinion they have is a fact. And the debate between fact and opinion, even if opinion is correct, it doesn't make it a fact if it's still presented as an opinion. The difference in fact and opinion are easy. It's not an overly complicated thing. Hell, we've even got definitions that tell us which is which. And there's enough contrast between the two the two things and how they're defined that it's not really hard to determine. You can have an opinion that's wrong even though it's factually based on how you came to the conclusion, based on how you present the conclusion, and based on the fact that opinions at their very core have the ability to be incorrect and false and manipulated. But a fact is a fact. And so few things in life, in comparison to opinion, have the ability to be fact. That's things involving human interaction, distances and time and science and math. Those are factual things that we often, especially with science, somehow find a way to apply opinion to. And there's a huge difference between hypothesis and opinion. But people do find a way to apply opinion to science. I do it. We all do it. Because opinion is a very hard thing to control. Almost impossible at times. And so I don't really try to control opinion. What I try to do is when I notice I've got an opinion on something, I have a feeling about something, I have the beginnings of a belief on something, and I wonder, one, where did the opinion come from? What influenced the opinion? Because that's important for me to know, is what influenced the way I feel about this. Am I influenced by statistical data that I've seen? Am I influenced by how other people feel? Because I'm sorry, it's hard for me to believe unless you're just a complete egomaniac. We've got a lot of those. We elected one. Unless you're a complete egomaniac. It's hard for me to understand how you couldn't know. Or it's hard for me to believe that you couldn't be influenced by the opinions of other people, and hence those opinions could in so many ways influence your opinions. I mean, that's kind of how it works. You know? That's why, for some reason, people care what Gal Gadot has to say. Not just because she's a beautiful woman, but because she's famous. Well, people care what Kim Kardashian has to say. That's mind-boggling to me. Absolutely mind-boggling to me. I don't care about her video series. I don't care about her possibly mentally compromised husband, who apparently is an artist, who, in my opinion, makes horrible music. I don't care about that. I don't care about what Donald Jr. thinks. I don't care about what Oprah thinks. I don't care what Ellen DeGeneres has to say. Not that I think Ellen DeGeneres is funny. Her show's it's here or there for me, but it's not my type of humor. I don't care what Joe Rogan thinks, a man that I admire. I don't care what Penn Jillette thinks. Maybe a little bit of Penn Jillette, but that's beside the point. I don't put a ton of emphasis and value on Penn Jillette's opinion on everything. But when somebody like Rogan has a very intelligent, very educated, very informed person on his show who can give me factual information that can help me form an opinion, then I care. But if I want to sit and say that despite how hard I try to make my opinions factually based and to make my opinions things that I really believe in and to not be influenced by other people, I care what Penn Jillette says sometimes. I care what his opinion is. You know what I mean? Like, I have friends and I care what their opinion is. When I write something new, I show it to people and I go, okay, I care. I care what my friends think about the art that I've made. And I care about their input and I care about their suggestions. And I don't think that that's wrong because those people have a value to me. You know, all right. Kim Kardashian doesn't have a value to me. But it's okay. It's okay to care what she thinks. But as much as I care what these people think, I don't let that completely dictate my opinion. Sometimes it may, and I may not be able to control it because that's just how opinion works sometimes. But at least I can stop and question it. When I was 16, my opinion was that anarchy ruled all, and that's what we should be. I didn't want Clinton, and then I didn't want Bush, and I didn't want Gore. Nobody wanted Gore, come on. I didn't want anybody. I wanted anarchy. I wanted Che Guevara. That was my opinion. Che was good. Che wasn't a murderer or a horrible human being. Che was good. Che didn't travel the world literally looking to stay in conflict. No, he was great. And wanted to be socialist. Shit, maybe even communist. I don't know. But I was 16, young. The influence I had. Listen to the opinions of Rage Against the Machine. Listen to the opinions of System of a Down. I didn't just listen to the music and to the lyrics. I tried to put meaning behind them. Listen to every interview they had, everything they had to say. And I based my opinions, not on factual statements about Che Guevara, but on the opinions that other people held of Che. I based my opinions on the Armenian genocide based on the opinions of people who had a cultural connection to the Armenian genocide. I feel that actually I was correct on those assumptions. But at first I was just basing it on opinion. It was later that I looked at the facts. Later when I looked at the facts about people like Che, I felt kind of stupid for owning a Che Guevara shirt. You know? I felt kind of stupid for my admiration of Cuba. When I look at the real past and history of Cuba, especially the part of that where Castro comes into play, yeah. I look at a lot of things from that time and go, those are opinions I developed as a young kid, uninformed, dumb, and just new to the world. And some of those I held, and some of those I keep, and some of those I just feel ridiculous about. It depends on the opinion, it depends on the situation and the circumstance. And some of them, even despite being proved factually wrong, some of those opinions I still hold dear. I still love wide-legged pants. I still love ball chain necklaces. I still personally would like to have red hair. Maybe blue. I still believe DC makes the greatest shoe ever made. And the most comfortable. I still believe, wholeheartedly, that if Limp Bizkit had quit at the first album, they would be thought a lot higher of. And, you know, I could hold my head up and say I like that album without people going, oh, you like Limp Bizkit? I mean, that's those people's opinion. And they look down on Limp Bizkit. And they're not wrong. But that first album? Come on. But I still hold a lot of those opinions from 16. And they're not all good. They're not all right, you know. I don't own a Che shirt anymore, you know. But I was that same liberal, far-left, white, young male that you see throwing bricks at stuff. So I don't look at those kids and go, oh man, those are horrible people. I look at those kids and go, huh, I've been there. And this is how I got there, because I figured it out over time, because I took the time in to figuring out, okay, how did I get here? But not just that, excuse me, I also know this is why I don't feel that way anymore. From taking the time of looking at, okay, what changed and what information did I gain? And I look at it with a little bit of sympathy. And I look at it with a little bit of understanding. Because there's nothing wrong with that. See, opinion does not have to dictate that we cannot agree with people that don't share the same opinion as us. Even if we've been in those people's shoes before, because that's generally what happens. Now, I don't agree with you, because I've been there before, and you're wrong and I'm right. And I'm right because I'm not there anymore. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got soft. Maybe the second Limp Bizkit album, and unfortunately the next Limp Bizkit album, was enough to make me just go berserk and go off the rails and go, nothing I believe in is real. Limp Bizkit's horrible. And so therefore my opinions have to be horrible. And forget Che and forget liberalism and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I don't feel that that's what happened. I feel that I found a real liberal. I feel that I found George Carlin around that time. And I feel that I found myself around that time and realized, man, I'm not a liberal. I'm a punk kid who's wanting to rebel against a life that ain't all that bad. You know? Did I completely buy the whole white privilege thing? No. I come from Eastern Kentucky. I come from a broken home. I come from poverty. I come from, a place with nothing. I come from the Detroit of rural America. A place that's been massacred by industry and taken advantage of. I come from a people who in the 40s and 50s were the immigrant workers. They were the Mexican workers of the United States of America. They were going to Ohio and all these places. I come from a place that, rich white privilege is real. Rich black privilege is real. Rich Latino privilege is real. That's my opinion. And it's not a popular one, but I think it weighs out factually. But my opinion's changed. And I think it's cool when opinions change. I think the important thing is why those opinions change. Did they change because of factually accurate information being presented? Did it change because of life experience? Because, see, I may have an opinion about something that somebody else doesn't share. And this is the important part. I may have something that it's hard to quantify factually with information. Is this accurate? It's something that maybe, I don't know, life experience is a very, very, very hard thing to quantify. Very hard thing to quantify. And I look at it and go, okay, I come from Eastern Kentucky, and I come from, starting in 1999, 2000, the heart, the epicenter of the opioid and OC epidemic, just like some African American may have came from the crack epidemic. And I come from an impoverished community who lost all of its jobs and things of that nature, just like somebody from Detroit after NAFTA was signed may have come from an impoverished. So I come from a place where maybe it's hard for me to look at it and go, white privilege exists across the board, because I was a freak and I was a weirdo and I dressed and looked a certain way, and people in positions of power did look at me differently. Law enforcement, a lot of people, because I was different. I was outside the norm. And I can't attest to or even possibly start to understand being racially profiled or living in an area of gang violence like South Central or anything of that nature. So I can't put myself there. All I have is my opinion based on where I come from. And we can sit and throw out murder statistics and all these things all day, but see, in that instance, statistical numbers can't quantify or can't define or explain away opinion. So as important as it is to defend fact and defend things that are undeniable, and we've spent 41 minutes discussing that, spend the last 2 discussing how important it is to defend the right to have an opinion based on experience. An experience that's not something that's necessarily definable by statistics and numbers, that you had to experience. And if I want to be the type of person that I want to be, if I want to accomplish that and get to that point and get to that level, 2 things have to occur. 1, I have to be willing to sacrifice my opinions if I can disprove them in any way, shape, or form. But I have to be willing to put a value on other people's opinions, even if they don't coincide with what I feel or what I see or what I think, because those opinions are just as valid as mine. And maybe, in some cases, in some instances, those opinions are more valuable than the facts. Those opinions are more valuable than what we can sit down and weigh out. And I have a problem with that sometimes, because I like things that can be weighed out, things that can be looked at, things that can be examined for factuality. But sometimes, maybe just sometimes, an opinion's worth a little bit more. If it's an opinion that comes from an experience we can't experience ourselves. I can never be a homosexual person in a family who doesn't accept homosexual people. I can never be an African American person in a situation where race has defined their existence. I can never be a rich white person who got every single thing happening for me. I mean, I could try if somebody gave me the money and wanted to run an experiment. We could see, but either way, I would have to come from the experience of where I originally come from. And I could never be an Alzheimer's or dementia patient running for president. And I could never be a living, walking, talking cheese puff who got elected president. So I'm going to work on my opinions and evaluate my opinions and try to get factually based point of views from that. But I'm going to, at least at first glance, give your opinion some respect. That's all I ask you to do with mine.